Hey. Hey, Annie. I'm going to share my screen. I'm trying not to talk too loud because people are sleeping. So hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm just going to go ahead and read this and cut to the chase because I just wanted to make a video for summer. And these are the notes I have, and I put a bunch of pictures in it. Well, not a bunch, but I put some pictures in it too. So when I share my screen, I hope you can see them okay, or at least see them somewhat. And it's like 32 pages, but I enhanced the font and added pictures, so it's not actually that long, but it's a lot of notes. So if you can correct me anywhere where you know that I'm wrong, or if you have anything to add, please do. And this is basically just the basics of Summer Wells's case. So Summer Moon Utah Wells was 5 years old when she went missing from the 100 block of Ben Hill Road in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County in Rogersville, Tennessee. She is approximately 3 feet tall and 40 pounds. She has naturally blonde hair, which was shaved at the time of her disappearance. At one point, her head was shaved as closely as possible, down to the bare skin. And by the time she went missing, it had grown enough to be what some consider shorter than a pixie cut. She is white, very slim, and was possibly barefoot when she went missing. She easily could have been mistaken for a little boy if she would have been dressed as one. Her birthday is February 4th, 2016, making her 7 in February. Her front teeth were decaying out, so she probably has no front teeth or at least one tooth, her front right tooth, most likely completely gone by now. Her hair could be long by now, even down to her shoulders, or it could still be shaved or anywhere in between. And she was known to put different colors in her hair, like blue and pink. So it could look like anything. If you look at her bright blue eyes and her facial expressions, you can tell it is Summer by seeing her face regardless of her hair. Summer was reported missing June 15th, 2021, around 6:30 p.m. by her parents, Candace Bly and Don Wells. Candace Bly says to the Rogersville Review, "Before the cops even came out, I went down and told my neighbors, Summer is missing. Will you help me look?" Just in case she did wander off. But I knew in the back of my mind she's never wandered off. She never went nowhere without me. She'll ask me to do something before she even goes and does it. She's scared to go in the woods by herself because we've told her time and time again because of the bears and snakes. Summer has a total of 5 older brothers that I know of, 2 being half-siblings that lived elsewhere at the time of her disappearance. Her 3 brothers, aged 12, 9, and 7, being Josie, Wyatt, and Waylon at the time of her disappearance, lived with her at her home on 110 Ben Hill Road. Summer has 2, possibly 3 sisters that I know of. It's alleged that Candace had another daughter between her oldest daughter and Summer that she gave up. Don has 6 kids, 4 boys and 2 girls that I know of. Candace has an alleged 7 kids. She does not have a relationship with her 3 older children, allegedly. Summer's grandmother, known on social media as Grandis since Summer's disappearance, is named Candy Harrer. She is Candace Bly's mother. Grandma Candy lived on the 110 Ben Hill property in a camper parked relatively close to Summer's house. Grandma has publicly said very little since June 15th, 2021, the day Summer Moon Utah Wells was reported missing, wearing a pink shirt and gray pants, as seen in the last photo taken of her, which actually I don't know if that's the last known photo taken of her because I don't believe law enforcement ever said for sure that that was the last known photo. I think the only last verified photo would have been at the swimming hole. Correct me if anyone knows if I'm wrong on that. But in Summers' alleged last photo, which was immediately shared by officials back in June of 2021, she can be seen drooping in the face, looking lifeless in the middle back seat of Grandma's truck about 5 minutes away from their home on Ben Hill, on their way back from an alleged swimming trip / emergency room visit for Grandma. This photo was at first an accidental video. May have been accidental unless the person filming it was trying to tell us something. They focus on Candace's hands for a moment. I've always thought that was kind of weird when they focused in on Candace's hands because it seemed like they were trying to show us her hands for a reason. In the very short clip, it flashes from Candace in the front seat to Summer sleeping in the back. What appears to me to be her sleeping, others have speculated she is on her way out or sedated in the video / photo. The camera focuses on Candace's hands on the steering wheel for a few seconds, which always stood out to me. Candace can be heard saying, "Is her arm still up?" Then the voice, which is said to be Grandma, replies a grim "no." It sounds grim to me, the way she says no. Some speculate this voice is Allie, Candace's friend and Hunter's mom, who is a 15-year-old boy that was with Candace, Grandma, and Summer, allegedly, on June 15th, 2021. There appears to be a small red-colored stain on Summer's jacket right in the front under where her lap part of her seatbelt rests, right in the belly button region. Some speculate this could be blood or spilled orange soda, since there was an orange soda sitting next to Summer in the video. However, if you ask Candace and Grandma, they will tell you Summer was fine. She jumped right up when they got home and even helped transplant cactus plants and ran around playing as normal. Candace says the video was taken at 3:09 p.m., which would have put them home around 3:15 p.m. Candace says the 3:09 picture was taken to try and capture Summer sleeping like her dad with her arms up. Although in the video we hear her say arm, singular, and her arms, neither of which were up. That's the photo I'm talking about right there. Hey, Annie, virtual hug back to you, girl. Yeah, I definitely feel like the hair, her head being shaved, something about that definitely doesn't sit right with me and makes me feel like maybe there wasn't an accident, just something about her head being shaved. I don't want to say too much about what I think about that because it's just not necessary, and I think you already know what I'm thinking. June 15th, 2021 started out just like any other day, according to Don. The day began around 7 a.m. when Don woke up for work with Summer's foot under his back in the bed they shared in the basement. He left for work drywalling in the meadows in Jonesboro. Candace got Summer and Grandma, and they got in Grandma's truck to head out to Holston Valley Medical Center. Grandma needed her knee looked at as she was in so much pain that it was probably impeding on her walking ability. Apparently, the boys were at home still, or maybe went with Don to work, as they have been alleged to do. Maybe one or two went with Don and one or two stayed home, but apparently they stayed home. That has been unclear to me from the start. Don took the Subaru that day, which many more than not find very odd and even to be a red flag. Don does drywalling and has tools to load up at the end of the day that are messy, and you'd think he would take his old truck, not his nice new Subaru that he just bought for his wife that December prior. Don says he took the Subaru because he's been paying all this insurance on it for it to just sit there. Yet, from the sounds of it, Candace took the kids everywhere to do everything, and one could only assume that she would drive the new Subaru her husband just bought for her. That has always stood out to me, too. So after Grandma to the hospital where she allegedly got, after taking Grandma to the hospital where she allegedly got a steroid shot and probably some anti-inflammatory pain medication, they went to the swimming hole. I believe Candace was sitting in the parking lot of the Holston Valley Medical Center when she allegedly got a call from Hunter or called Hunter. He wanted to come swimming and hang out, allegedly, because he wanted out of his house. So they left the hospital and came back to get Grandma, or waited for Grandma, then went and got Hunter. Then they went to the Warriors Path State Park in Kingsport. The part of the park they visited was known as the swimming hole or the horse stables. Hunter says you can't call it the swimming hole because you're not supposed to swim in there. While at the park, Candace recorded TikToks of Hunter and Summer, but Grandma was not seen in any of the TikToks that were allegedly taken June 15th. I am unclear whether they went to the hippie house and the carryout for the vapes and twisted tea on the way to the park from the hospital, but at some point they did grab those while they were out, and the version of events differs depending on who you ask. I was under the impression they grabbed those items to use while they were at the park. Hunter allegedly drank a twisted tea while he was with Candace. Hunter's mom says he was intoxicated June 15th when he came home, that he did drink that day. Grandma allegedly bought minutes for her phone that day. She was putting them on her phone while they were at the park swimming, according to Hunter. Candace says Grandma got out and came down to the water with them, that Grandma was there with Summer while she was swimming. Candace pans over to Hunter on the land with Summer in the background swimming while she's filming a TikTok. She focuses on Hunter, then down to a tiny red flower. This part always bothered me. She focuses on Hunter, then down to a tiny red flower, then back on Hunter, then back on Hunter walking up behind Summer in the water. So there's a red flower, and Hunter is standing there messing with some stuff or whatever, and she's filming a TikTok of Summer swimming and of Hunter walking up to this stuff laying on the ground, and there's a red flower, and she zooms in down on the red flower and then zooms back out and focuses on Hunter, and then it shows them in the water together. And I don't know why, but something about that flower has always bothered me. That has always stood out to me. Something about that flower she zooms in on, then later says, we're looking at all the pretty flowers, and she had to tell her mom not to pick them because it's illegal and she's not getting in trouble for anyone. So what's really with the flower? I don't know, but I would love to. Hunter's mom allegedly had a falling out with Candace around the time of Summer's disappearance. She alleges it's because of the way Candace treats her kids. There was a situation not long before Summer went missing, maybe within a year leading up to her going missing, and Don and Candace allegedly held Allie's kids at their house against Allie's orders for them to leave and come home. Allie had to call the police to report that her kids were up on the hill with Don and Candace, and they wouldn't let them leave. And you can find that recording online. Yet she had the nerve to let Hunter go with Candace that day because, in her words, they were just going fishing or whatever, so there was no harm in that. The plans, I believe, were originally to go fishing that day, but they ended up just swimming, allegedly. If that was my child, and I was in that situation, I would never allow my child, no matter how old they are, to go on an outing, especially just with Candace, Grandma, and Summer. It's not like the boys were there to play with Hunter. Hunter shouldn't be getting messed up and drinking at all. He's only 15, was at the time. Even though Candace claims to have bought the twisted tea for Grandma and says that all she bought for Hunter was a Mountain Dew, which is funny because Grandma claims not to like tea. She says she just drinks Mountain Dew. Hunter says he drank the twisted tea. According to Allie, Candace arrived at her house to pick Hunter up around 10:30 in the morning. Candace claims to be bad with time and not remember. The TikTok at Warriors Path State Park wasn't taken until 12:21 p.m. And I'm pretty sure, and I feel like somebody would know. I feel like Cotton Candy would know this. But Candace claims to be bad with time and not remember. The TikTok at Warriors Path State Park wasn't taken until 12:21 p.m. And that was verified by law enforcement, wasn't it? That TikTok was actually taken at 12:21 p.m. that day. I might be wrong about that, but I think that was verified, and that was the last known place where she was seen. And I think Candace was seen on CC footage or whatever at the Walgreens or something, which I believe that came from Chris McDonough. So I don't know if you want to take that for what it is or whatever. I could be wrong about that too, but that's something that I was wondering about, that I thought somebody would know that could leave it in the comment. There was also a stop made at Walgreens to pick up Grandma's prescription and to Sonic for slushies. There was never any mention of food. They stopped at Priceless Grocery Store for what Candace has described as 5 minutes, though Hunter's recollection is more like an hour. Hunter allegedly waited in the car with Summer, and Candace said she was in and out, grabbing only essentials. Yet then they arrived back home around 3:15 after allegedly dropping Hunter off. They had to sort through groceries to separate Grandma's from Candace's. That always seemed off to me. If they were only in there for 5 minutes and they only grabbed essentials, why'd they have to sort through all the groceries when they came home? Candace allegedly arrived back at Allie's house to drop Hunter off between 2 and 2:30 p.m. When they arrived home around 3:15 p.m., the boys were allegedly there and helped carry in the groceries, and Summer jumped right up. When Grandma Candy did her one interview with WJHL up on the hill in Beach Creek, she gave the impression that she wasn't there that day to many people. That's because of a statement in which she said, "Summer went swimming that day at the horse stables, I believe it was," leading many to believe she did not know for sure where it was. So she must not have been there, or she would remember. They were at Warriors for sure, given it would be one of her last memories with her granddaughter, and she probably had a hard time getting around because of her knee. I would assume she would be positive where they were that day if she in fact was with them. Candace had said when they arrived home and got the groceries in that Summer sat inside the kitchen door and played with her toys. Grandma was outside with a crazy look on her face, according to Candace, so she asked her mom what was wrong. Grandma says these cactus plants need to be repotted. So Candace says, okay, I know who'll help, and got Summer and told her they're going to plant pretty flowers. So Summer was like, oh, pretty flowers, and excitedly jumped in to help, according to Candace. According to Leslie Earhart of the TBI, there was no flower bed. The pots that were there were examined. Candace has said the boys were inside sleeping and watching TV at the same time, and it has also been said they were playing video games, and Don has said they were on YouTube. Summer has put some of her Paw Patrol figurines in the cacti, which is really cute if she really did that. And I know they really are there, but I hope she really did do that herself. Summer allegedly loved Paw Patrol and can be seen wearing Paw Patrol in some pictures. I hope she really did love Paw Patrol and really did get to watch it all the time. The repotting of the cactus plants took place directly outside of Grandma's camper. After they were done, they washed their hands, and Summer went in and got a piece of candy from Grandma, a peppermint, according to Grandma. I'm unsure if they washed their hands inside or outside, but then Summer said she wanted to go back over to the house to play with her brothers. So Candace says she walked Summer back up to the house and into the front door where the boys were watching TV, and she hollered in and said, boys, watch Summer, I'll be back. And within 2 minutes, she says she came back and she asked the boys, where's Summer? And they said, oh, she went downstairs to play with her toys. So Candace says she walked over to the stairway and hollered down for Summer, but she didn't get no answer, which was strange because usually she always answers her. So she went down there to check, and Summer was just gone. She was just nowhere. Candace says she looked under every blanket and searched everywhere she could possibly think of. This is when panic allegedly sets in for Candace, and she realizes Summer is missing. It's allegedly been said by Grandma that Candace came back up from the basement and came outside in a hysterical cry after she noticed Summer was not in the basement. I don't know if that's true or not. I always found this strange because why would she be hysterical instead of thinking Summer had just simply gone outside or maybe even back to Grandma's? It must have been around 5:30 or 6 when Summer was noticed to be missing. She claims to have searched around for a while before calling Don and then calling 911. She says she had thrown her phone down in the back of Don's truck and picked up Grandma's phone to call 911 because it's the only phone that works to call an emergency because it's AT&T. I always found that to be odd because it shouldn't matter ever whose phone you dial from, or I believe even if it has service, you can still dial out to 911. There is a lot of discrepancy in the timeline of events on June 15th of 2021, even with the 911 calls. Who exactly called, how many calls there were, and what was said. They may never be released. We hear in the dispatch that the parents have called in and advised that the mother had gone for a walk and came back, and now she can't find her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now. Yes, that's what the father advised. That's not verbatim. The dispatch says parents advised and also says the father advised. This leads me to believe Don and Candace both called in at separate times. You can play the dispatch call on YouTube. You can find it. I know Tiffany Marie played it a lot, but I don't know if she still has it up, but I know you could definitely find it very easily if you just search Summerwell's dispatch call. Summer's neighbor at the time she went missing was Jody Sue Brown, now known to be a suspect in the disappearance of Summer Wells. Jody Sue is formerly of 125 Ben Hill Road, basically directly across the street from Summer's house. Back there in the holler, the way it is back there, it is directly across the street from Summer's house. She claims to have heard a scream between 4:30 and 4:42 p.m. on June 15th. Jody and her 19-year-old son speak on the scream on WJHL News Channel 11. I have always found it odd that Jody's son Damien smirks as he explains how the scream was animalistic. Jody says she wishes every day that she could get that scream out of her head, but Sheriff Ronnie Lawson in Hawkins County says her claims are unfounded and aren't related to Summer's disappearance. So does that mean there was a scream? I'm confused on that. Angel Talks Too Fast talks about that, and I would really love to know. Candace says she was downstairs searching for Summer when Jody heard the scream. How would she know she was searching for Summer when Jody heard the scream? And that disqualifies the timeline, because if Jody hears a scream at 4:30-ish, that would have been around the time they were allegedly repotting cactus plants and washing their hands and such. This would have probably been the time when Summer would have been going down to play with her toys. If Candace started searching for Summer around 4:30, 4:42 p.m., then she waited only 10 minutes to call 911. That would put the 911 call around 4:45, not 6:30. It just doesn't add up or make sense. I don't know if I even believe the scream, but it sounds like they were working together on it, which is odd to me. Don says he left work as soon as he got the call from Candace that Summer was missing. He says he first loaded his tools up into the Subaru, then took off flying back to Ben Hill. He claims to have got there in 30 minutes. The dispatch clearly says the father is trying to make his way home from work about an hour away. That would put Don home around 7, probably a little before that, because he was already heading that direction when he called 911. When Don arrived home around 7, probably a little before that, because he was already heading that direction when he called 911. When Don arrived home, he said at first that he got there before law enforcement. Then he later says there may have been a cop or two there. He just doesn't remember. Summer's 3 brothers, a couple neighbors, being, I believe, Sharfie and Jody, Candace and Grandma were all searching for Summer. Grandma says she sent the 3 boys down over the hill by the creek as she watched from atop the hill. She says she prayed for a minute that nobody would take them as they were searching. Don immediately drove past the house and down to the bottom property by the shed by the road. The shed, I believe, is listed as 121 Ben Hill Road. It's also the same shed in which evidence was taken from after a winter search. The night of June 15th, 2021, search and rescue teams devoured Beach Creek. They had dogs, helicopters, drones, men on 4-wheelers, search crews on foot, and a community of people waiting to help. Law enforcement asked the public not to assist in the search right away because Ronnie Lawson says they have all their men and women tracked and know exactly where everyone is, and they don't want to have an accident and need to have anyone else going missing or getting hurt, and it would just slow down the investigation. Although Ronnie Lawson says on the news that he has approximately 60 to 80 searchers out. So if he has them all precisely tracked, shouldn't he know the precise number of searchers? The public was asked to search their own property. There apparently were some property owners that declined to have their land searched. I don't know who or why. Residents were asked to look in places a small child could fit, in spaces small enough as a laptop that could fit in a laptop case. When Leslie Earhart of the TBI talked to WJHL, she revealed they do not have future searches planned, but they will change that with developments in the case. There have been several searches since June 15th, which leads me to wonder what evidence or leads they have that led them to search the specific areas that they did. At midnight on June 16th of 2021, the TBI issued an endangered child alert. Then around 11 a.m., June 16th, they switched it to an amber alert. Summer was now believed to be in imminent danger. By 4 p.m. on June 16th, TBI had received about 30 tips. TBI also then held their first news conference updating the public on their search efforts. Ronnie Lawson said 19 different agencies are involved in searching for Summer as of June 16th, 2021. By June 16th, there went from 60 to 80 people searching to 100 people in the woods searching for Summer. At this point, Ronnie Lawson says, they have plenty of help from locals and professionals. Although they declined EchoSearch coming back, they declined help from a dive team, and they also have been revealed to have since had all this has happened, been short-staffed in Hawkins County, and it has affected Summer's case because had they had more help, they could have searched the landfill. Lawson says the outpour from the community and helping with food and drinks and offering their help in searching, etc., has been tremendous and so much appreciated. He says it's an intense investigation and they will release what they can when they can. He reiterates, the main goal right now is to find Summer. Lawson speaks on how dense the land is and how rugged of terrain they are dealing with. Steep and rugged terrain and thick, dense forestry, bears, snakes, vines, pricklies, you name it, not to mention scorching and humid summer heat. Lawson says there is virtually no cell phone signal and there have been technical difficulties in communicating on the ground. He says even with the communication difficulties and the radios not working, despite towers being brought in, they will continue searching until Summer is found. Will you, Ronnie? They will put this case to rest, says Lawson. Will you, Lawson? As of June 16th, Lawson says the family is cooperating. June 17th, TBI releases ground and aerial footage of the search area surrounding Summer's home to give an idea of the difficult terrain teams were dealing with. Teams had searched over 680 acres by 8 p.m. June 17th of 2021. Don spoke to the news for the first time by June 18th. Don said, when I got home, I drove to the bottom of the property and I realized that all my neighbors and stuff were combing the woods looking for her, and I realized right then and there that she was not there. I knew right then and there that she was gone because she would never leave there on her own. Somebody had taken her. And he has stuck with that story since that day. Don has also said, I'll see her in the resurrection, and I don't want to think she's dead, but it's a possibility, and some other horrendous things. 1 week after Summer was reported missing, TBI had received at least 221 tips. Searching in Beach Creek continued as investigators set up a roadblock finally on June 23rd. They set this up to ask drivers as they passed if they had seen anything unusual in the area around the time of Summer's disappearance. Now, was this the first roadblock they set up, or was this just the first roadblock they set up to question people, or did they set up a roadblock before this to block the road off because there is a missing child? If anybody knows that, let me know, please. By this time, teams had covered over 4.6 square miles searching for Summer. The incident commander for ground search operations, Captain Tim Coop, with the Churchill Rescue Squad, had a command center set up just up the road from 110 Ben Hill at the Mount Carmel Baptist Church. June 26, 2021, TBI asked for the driver of a red 98 to 2000 model Toyota Tacoma truck with a full bed ladder rack and white buckets in the back to come forward. They were named as a possible witness and not a suspect. The driver has yet to come forward, though they could be a suspect. They have followed up on hundreds of red trucks, matching the description with no luck. This vehicle was seen in the late afternoon or early evening of June 14th or 15th. The person who reported the red truck was some sort of worker, like for the state or city, maybe, someone that drives by on a daily basis. Officials state this person may have seen something related to Summer's disappearance. Oddly enough, I believe Jody Sue Brown was most likely driving a red truck around that time. I have looked before on Google Earth, and you could see lots of red trucks with what appear to be white buckets in the back and letter racks. If my memory serves me correctly, Jody Sue never did talk to the TBI about the red truck on the Bernard's property, which is the family she was a part of for many years while she was with Andy Bernard, her ex-supposed abuser, who we come to later find out she was not being fully honest about. She made him out to be a complete and utter monster, and she has been caught in several lies about him. She makes it out to be that she is not allowed to talk to anyone or do anything without getting beat up. But over time, we have seen Andy interact with people on social media, and we've seen them together on camera from prior to Summer's disappearance, and he did not seem angry or mean towards her at all. If anything, she was mean towards him, and she was the aggressor and said and did things you would never say to an abuser that you're terrified of and triggered by. Officials announced June 27th, 2021, they're scaling back search efforts and search operations. Then on July 2nd, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson tells WJHL News they have received over 750 tips, but no solid leads. 9 days later, he tells Times News Summer's case is nowhere near being cold. By July 12, 2021, TBI confirms they've received 935 tips. Leslie Earhart says they're looking into all tips. Does anybody know how many tips they've received as of today? I'm not sure what that number is, but that would be good to know. Leslie Earhart says they're looking into all tips. Thank you, Jody Sue Brown, for causing so many of those tips to be false. Ronnie Lawson says everything is on the table. Lawson says everyone is a person of interest. This is also the same day Don tells Times News him, Candace, and Grandma all passed lie detectors. Don says Candace was too upset at first and she had to go back and retake it because the first test would have been inconclusive due to her anxiety and stress. Or maybe it was inconclusive, or maybe she failed it. On June 29th, 2021, Candace made her first news appearance. She told WJHL, I know she didn't walk away from this property or by herself or walk off this yard by her swing. I feel in my heart that somebody has come up here and took her, lured her away from here. She goes on to state that her, Grandma, and Summer were planting flowers. Then she says they washed their hands, then went in and got a piece of candy from Grandma, and Summer wanted to go back over to the house to see her brothers. So Candace said okay and walked her back over to the house where the boys were watching TV, and she told them, watch Summer, I'll be back. And within 2 minutes, she came back. Then she asked the boys, where's your sister? And they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom, where they appeared to be no toys or children's things, and it didn't appear safe for children, in my opinion. There was electronics and cords and a couple TVs and a dirty undressed mattress. It is what it is, not judging, just what I observed when I saw footage of inside the basement. It wasn't messy with toys like the playroom I imagine. Candace goes on to tell how she yelled downstairs for Summer and received no answer. She says she went down there to check on Summer and she was just nowhere. She was nowhere in sight. She was just gone. She says all of this with no tears and a puzzled look on her face. The 911 dispatch relays the information that the mother had gone for a walk and came back, and now she can't find her. The man says, so when you got the original call, the mom went on a run, and when she came back, the daughter was gone. And the dispatcher is like, 10-4, that's what the father called and advised. He's at work about an hour away trying to make his way home. But on WJHL on June 29th, Candace says, I don't go on walks around here or runs because I'm scared of the bears and snakes and even coyotes. Candace says. Whoever has my daughter, I just hope and pray they bring her back to us safe and sound. She says it's very strange that she has never seen this red truck, and she has never heard of it until Summer disappeared. She says recently, but it was June 29th, 2021. So what was recent then? Don and Candace then awkwardly tell why Summer's head was shaved. Candace says the boys had their heads shaved and she wanted to go her head shaved like her brothers. And Dawn says she got a hold of some clippers and tried to cut it herself, so they just shaved it off and let it grow back long. Don goes on to talk about the red Tacoma. He says they don't know nothing about no red truck, he says, and we hardly know any of our neighbors, which we know isn't really true. Don knows his neighbors. He says they just try to hang around good Christian people, which we also know not to be entirely true as well if you have been following the case. Don says since Summer has gone missing, they found out they have a lot of good people in Beach Creek, so apparently he only knew about the bad ones before. He also at one point stated how many drug dealers there were around there that he wanted to go search the homes of, and Candace spoke of all the RSOs nearby. Candace says the most important thing is to bring Summer home safely. Again, not showing anything in the way of emotion, more in the way she looked messed up, and that was masking her emotions. Candace says she's sorry people feel that way about them, speaking probably on social media speculations of abuse and neglect towards her children, but nobody would ever treat her like that if I was around, ever. Don says Summer always wanted to dance and hold his arm to where she could twirl. Don says one of Summer's favorite songs was Godzilla. Candace says Summer also liked the song My House by New Breed, that they would sing it on the TV. Candace says Summer just loved to dance. Don said she likes to think of herself as a princess. Candace says she loves Frozen and loved to be that Elsa. Don says Summer really loved to be in church because she felt a lot of love there. I think that is probably true, and she probably seeked out love that she was not getting from home, in my opinion. Candace says Summer's best friend in that church was Robin Lane, her Sabbath school teacher. Don says Summer looked up to women that were pretty and professional. Candace refers to Summer as the boss of the family. Don says she's a typical girl, trying to sound like a typical dad, in my opinion. Candace said Summer is a tomboy who likes to play outside and enjoy dirt. 2021 was supposed to be Summer's first year of school. She was allegedly signed up for kindergarten and taken to get all her shots, according to Candace. Don begs meekly, please let her come home. Please don't hurt her. Please find a way to where we can get her back. Pretty much just like that. Don says she's such a loving heart, and he's afraid she's locked away where she can't be outside and play with the puppy. That's terrible. October 30th of 2021, Don was on YouTube live stream when he got pulled over. He had been drinking and had an open bottle of alcohol in his truck. The bottle was reportedly large and only half full. When asked about the bottle, Don said he took it from his wife following an argument. The deputy that pulled Don over states Don missed heel-to-toe contact 5 times, stepped off the line multiple times, and used his arms to maintain balance in the walking portion of the field sobriety test. Don put his foot down twice, swayed, and bent his knee to stand during the one-leg stand portion of the exam. Don admitted to police that he probably had too much to drink, even though he said he only took 2 shots. The charges Don faced that night after being taken to the hospital for a blood draw were DUI, expired registration, open container, violation of financial responsibility, and roadways lane for traffic. The arrest was in violation of his probation, which got him a year sentence. Since Don pled guilty, the state dropped all of their charges besides the DUI. Don ended up going to court and bonding out the next day. He was out until his court date, February 7th, which is when he went back to jail to serve his year for his DUI, which he was already on probation or, bond for so long, so he had however much longer that he had left on that year. Don sat until October 30th of 2022 at Hawkins County Jail. While Don was in jail, he wrote several letters, one of which was written July 18th and addresses those who allegedly kidnapped Summer. In the letter, he states, "Not only have you broken her heart and taken her away from her mother and father, whom love her very much, but you've ruined her chances to become educated, ruining her life. This is very strange to me. To bring up her education, how very odd. In the letter, he references losing his drywalling job in January after protesters came to one of his work sites. He says, "We may end up losing everything. When you took our little girl, you took our very lives." He says, "Please do the right thing and turn our daughter over to the authorities." In another letter Don wrote from jail dated June 15th, 2022, he describes missing Summer and feeling powerless. Both Don and Candace have made several appearances on YouTube. We have heard Don say some pretty alarming things about Summer. We have heard Don and Candace fight and watch them get drunk and high and make a spectacle of themselves. Don has said he knows where Summer is when talking to his sister, Sonia. He says Summer is in some hotel room being essayed for crack. Why would you say that about your missing 5-year-old daughter? Summer's ex-neighbor, Jody Sue Brown, also known as Jody Loaf on YouTube, made some pretty vile accusations as well. She was live streaming from YouTube and said her ex Andy was selling drugs to and for the children on Ben Hill so they could be sedated and be touched. It's hard to even type those words, let alone say them. Jody later says she never said that. She also says, based on a lot of other things that she said as well, that people are taking clips of her and meshing them together with other clips to make it seem like she is saying things that she is not really saying. That would take some magic. I heard Jody live when she said those things and my jaw was to the floor. Jody is a suspect in Summer's disappearance. Many have speculated that Jody was targeted the Wells family. There was a land dispute between her and Jackie Dobbs in June before Summer went missing. The day before Summer went missing, Jody was allegedly setting traps and looking for Jackie Dobbs, wanting to scare him away. Jackie has said the people in Beach Creek are not welcoming of outsiders, even a regular old backwoods boy like himself, just looking to mind their own. It seems Jody wanted the Wells land so nobody else could live there, in my opinion. It seems as though Jody didn't want anyone near 125 Ben Hill. She wanted to be secluded with her abuser? How very strange. She, in reality, just not that. She never had anything and she wanted it all. There was a land sale that drooped over onto her property at her driveway. She went insane over it. She posted live on social media, ranting and complaining about it, basically making threats and saying vile things about those who would be moving onto that land. Jody was also one of the first people alleged to have been searching for Summer. She says she heard the scream between 4:30 and 4:42. Then a little while later, around 6, she hears people screaming for Summer and hears commotion outside. So she puts 2 and 2 together and says, "Uh-oh," and she goes out and she drops her purse and she starts looking. She said the neighbors had the hillside and she took the creek. The boys were allegedly out back along the creek and Grandma was on top of the hill. Candace says she hopped in the truck and drove all the way down to the church and as far back in the holler as she could go. When Candace pulls back up, Jody says she hears Don on the phone talking to Candace, and he says, "So you're telling me someone took my baby girl?" Monotone, like, "So you're telling me someone took my baby girl?" Remember, Candace says the scream happened while she was searching inside for Summer, and the TV was going, so she didn't hear it. But she knows Jody claims to have heard the scream around 4:30. This also puts the timeline off a bit for Don and Andy arriving home from work, because Don shouldn't have got home until around 6:45 or 7 if it took him a half hour to drive home, and he called 911 around 6:30, leaving for home as he called 911. Jody claims to have taken the creek because in her head she was already thinking about the fact that there would be search dogs. So she took the creek to keep her scent down for the dogs, according to Jody. It took search and rescue till around 7 p.m. to even get to the hill, so I don't know what prompted Jody to think about the search dogs immediately instead of just looking where she thought Summer would actually most likely be. She also said she looked in the creek to see if Summer was still in there. Why would she still be in there? When was she in there before? The search for Summer has taken hundreds of trained personnel from all over the country. Don maintains that some bad person grabbed her. Yeah, Don. On June 24th, 2021, Leslie Earhart says, "While every case is different, this one is definitely outside the norm." July 27th, 2021, the Churchill Rescue Squad announces they will no longer be the lead agency orchestrating searches for Summer. Instead, Hawkins County Sheriff's Office would be the lead agency. July 21st of 21, CPS confirms they are involved in Summer's disappearance. This also is when the 3 boys were removed from the home. This, according to Don, was due to safety concerns, but we don't really know the real reason. And he also told Jay for Justice that he wasn't supposed to be drinking, but he was. Dozens of people met every week to hold prayer vigils for Summer. They would pray for Summer's safe return and offered support to the Wells family. Now, no matter what you think of the Wells family, I think that's really great that the church did that for them. They would pray for Summer's safe return and offered support to the Wells family. On July 29th, Candace confirmed that the boys had been taken into the custody of the state the week prior. By the end of July 2021, the reward fund had jumped to over $37,970. By September 21st, the reward fund surpassed $40,000. October 4th of 21, Don tells WJHL he is not happy about the expiration set for the reward fund. Don says, "I feel bad for Summer. I don't know why they set it up like that." That same day, the CHRS, Churchill Rescue Squad, reward fund was extended for another 6 months. Oops. By October 27th of 2021, the reward fund had surpassed $58,000. November 11th and 12th of 21, Don and Candace appeared on the Dr. Phil show. Candace actually ended up walking out during the filming of one of the episodes. She said she was feeling interrogated. Candace says on the Don Wells family official YouTube page that there were many reasons why she walked out. December 1st and 2nd, crews returned to Beach Creek for a planned 2-day search. The TBI states that teams would be working in areas that were too dense and overgrown before. Several other law enforcement agencies assisted. Nothing was reported to have come from that search. Again, at the beginning of March 2022, while Don was in jail, there was another planned search. The second and final day of that search is when Ronnie Lawson announced on the news that the family is not cooperating. Grandma, in response to this, says on the news, Mr. Lawson stated that Candace and the whole family lawyered up. I can't speak for Donnie, and I know Candace hasn't because she told me she hasn't, and I have not. If law enforcement or TBI wants to talk to me, they have my phone number. They know when I leave the state. They know when I'm here. Again, nothing came of that March 2022 search. In April, the lead investigator spoke on Summer's case for the first time publicly. Detective John Pruitt with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office says, "We've gone through hours and hours of interviews, video footage, electronic data, just trying to find a specific direction to go towards, and nothing has narrowed that down. So everything, as the sheriff has said, is on the table." Also in April of 22, the DA spoke on the case, saying, "It's a case that has implications for the legal system and the law, but you couldn't classify it right now. There are no criminal charges that have been filed yet. If an arrest ever does take place, that's when he would step in. By this point, there have been no arrests in connection to the disappearance of Summer Moon Utah Wells but thousands of tips. TBI has expressed how people calling in with speculation from social media, aka Jody Sue, and a bunch of other people that were involved in scams that were all over 423 Chase and all that bullcrap, all that caused the TBI to come out and say how people calling in with speculation from social media is bogging down their system and impeding on the investigation. They have reportedly, up to this point and probably beyond, received phone calls every single day about Summer. If you want to hear some really good phone calls that they've received about Summer, listen to Smiley Stories World, because she did a lot of work and she's been riding their tails, and I love her for it. The total reward fund ended up being $40,305.47, in which the CHRS had possession, and 2 checks which were given back to the donors worth $10,000 and $25,000. That put her reward fund at a total of $75,305.47, and yet still no information leading us to Summer. $32,193.43 was contributed by Kiana Carlock, also known as Q Carlock, through funds raised online without the rescue squad's consent, which is not legal, and I do believe that Q Carlock knew that, and that's just my opinion. It's alleged that those funds led to the rescue squad's concern after receiving an email from Fiona O'Connor, that Carlock had committed crimes by raising money for the funds without the squad's consent. If you're going to do something for a missing child, please make sure you do it correctly. This led to the funds being frozen to protect the squad from future potential lawsuits until it was approved by the court, so there was a full transparency where the funds were and where they were going. No funds were to be moved in or out until the issue was resolved. Since the reward fund was first announced, the rescue squad has stated their intention in donating the funds to the Child Advocacy Center if Summer was not found in the allotted time before the fund expired, which it did in June of 2022. Where are the funds? Anybody know? I would love to know. Unfortunately, law enforcement have come out with no updates on the fund. Not that I've seen. Don and Candace have been accused of horrendous things. Jody, which you have to take with a grain of salt, says she saw Summer running around in a diaper as old as the hills. She said Summer would drink bottles full of liquor and that Candace would feed her milk and cereal as an infant when she was too young for it instead of formula. Jody also implies several times throughout the past year and a half that Don definitely had an inappropriate relationship with Summer. She claims to have seen them showering together, which I honestly do not believe she ever saw, but I don't doubt that it happened because Don himself says he showered with Summer because Candace doesn't ever shower and he doesn't like Summer all sticky. Jody says a lot, but Don's sister Mary that he grew up with also has accused Don of some gross stuff. Mary says Don essayed her pretty violently, and she wasn't the only sister to be allegedly attacked by Don on more than one occasion. This was when they lived together as a family in Utah years ago when they were kids and when Don was a teenager. 7 women have allegedly come forward with SA claims against Don, 5 of which were said to have actually filed charges. There is supposedly a case pending in Utah against Don. Nothing has publicly come out about that yet. Nothing that I've seen. Mary says the TBI was called the day after Summer was reported missing and informed of Don's concerning behavior. Don's sister has stated that she thinks he knows more than he is saying and wants him to come clean. It has been said that when Don's 2 oldest children, who did not live on Ben Hill Road with Summer, were very young, he tried to sell them. Allegedly, they were found by his ex-wife at his drug dealer's house. There has been evidence of violent behavior in the home during Summer's life. Candace and Don had a domestic incident October 14th of 2020 in which deputies were dispatched to their home. Don, according to reports, had a struggle with Candace in which she was pushed down, causing damage to her knee. Candace claims Don punched himself in the face, then left. This is when Don was driving home from out of state, and I believe that's when he was driving home from Utah, because Candace had another man, Jose Roman, who was recently passed away, in the house. Side note, does anybody know how Jose Roman passed away? And I don't understand why people act like it's not okay to talk about. I mean, he's not a minor, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just wondering, it does have to do with Summer's case, in my opinion. But anyways, this is when Don was driving home from out of state because Candace had another man, Jose Roman, who has recently passed away, in the house, and Don wanted him out, even though he still allegedly remained there for, weeks? Candace got an order of protection against Don in which she wrote, "He drinks and throws things, and I'm afraid of being hurt. I'm afraid for my children and for myself. My mother fears he is going to hurt her." 4 days later, at Don's hearing, Candace asked for an order to dismiss. April 21st of 21, the domestic assault and unlawful possession of a handgun was dismissed. Don pled guilty to possession of a handgun while under the influence. Then after Summer's disappearance, Candace reports Don for assault. January 19th of 22, around 12:30 a.m., officers were called to 110 Ben Hill again in reference this time to an open 911 line. Officers could hear arguing in the background and lost contact. When officers arrived, Candace said Don hit her. I still believe that was Grandma that called. Grabbed her by the throat and pushed her against the wall. So Don supposedly hit her, grabbed her by the throat, and pushed her against the wall. She says she broke her thumb when it got hit on the washing machine in the midst of Don pushing her around. Yet they observed Candace light a cigarette and use her thumb normally. So Don told officers they were arguing, but he never touched her. Candace said they were both drinking, and I'm sure it was pretty clear they were both drunk. Officers did not see any marks on Candace, and the incident supposedly happened a few hours before 911 was called. It's my opinion, and maybe it's been said that Grandma is the one that called the open 911 line. The primary aggressor was unknown and nobody was arrested. Given that Don and Candace and their 4 children live in a 780 square foot house with only bare plywood floors and not one pillow or blanket that I can see, or any comfortable furniture, or even a decent shower to relax in, I can see how tensions would be high, especially given they were probably on drugs and drinking every night as well. Don has been in trouble before. He has multiple violent felonies and served prison time for convictions involving drugs and burglaries in Arkansas, Utah, and Texas. From the late 90s and early 2000s, he was cited with multiple parole violations. Candace has a domestic abuse charge from 2003 in Wisconsin. Don says he found God in prison. Don has also raised 1 criminal. His oldest son, Donald III, has been convicted in Utah of child sex crimes. He is a registered SO. Donald III was allegedly in Utah at the time of Summer's disappearance. Amber Alert, 1-800 TBI FIND, Summer Wells. Summer is not the first person in Candace's family to go missing. Candace's little sister, Rosemary Bly, went missing from St. Croix, Wisconsin, August 21st of 2009 when she was only 21 years old and a mother. Authorities found Rose's car in a truck lot 5 days later in Grantsburg, about 15 miles north of where she was allegedly heading to in Cushing. Candace and Don were allegedly in Arkansas at the time Rose disappeared. Authorities say the cases are not tied. There's a lot of creators on YouTube doing the most for Summer in the fight for answers. Angel Talks Too Fast, Tiffany Marie, Cracking Cases, Voices Behind the Wall, Ziggy, Fizzle, Benny Keys, Whether You Like Them or Not, Chris McDonough from The Interview Room, J is for Justice Podcast, Chasing Truth, What Big Eyes, Sage Sleuth, Dazed and Confused, Gavel Geeks, Krama Mama, Josh at the Lab, Shay's Safe Place, Lip Locked No More, Evil Exists. There are so many. These are sources that I'm citing that I cannot even think of them all off the top of my head. They have all individually brought a lot to the table, and I appreciate them all so much for that. There is so much to Summer's story that I have left out to talk about another time. Things that I could possibly bring to a day-long conversation easily, like the 423 Chase scandal, things Jody Sue has said and done, Tim Mullen, the media manager, who is suspicious and creepy, the Ernie Shell tapes, the phone call with 423 Chase and Tiffany Marie, the protesters, the people who have passed away in connection to Summer's case, the Bones incident, interviews with Fred Hill, and the information we know about Frank Light, more on the land dispute and Jackie Dobbs. There is so much, and at the center of it all is Summer Moon Utah Wells, and I, along with thousands of others, will not rest until she is found. May she be found safe. She could be out there anywhere. Always keep hope and be prepared for the worst. You have to be tough or this shit will break you. Thank you for hearing part of Summer's story, but this is but a drop. So Did anybody hear anything that I said that was wrong or that I could correct or that I could have went into more detail about? Because this is literally just my notes that I took in my notebook, and I like summarized it into a rough draft, and then I took that and I typed it all out. And I wanted to actually make a good presentation with it, but it's so hard with Summer Wells because there's so much information and so much of it's speculation. And I don't want to add to that, but at the same time, I know that a lot of the people that are listening and that truly care about Summer, that are here to truly find answers for Summer, are the people that are listening. So I don't mind speculating with people like that. I'm really glad that some people are here. And thank you, TT. Um, and Yanni. Oh, thanks, Mom. Love you. So I'm gonna keep continuing to try and find a video editor that I can present better videos with. And I still want to keep going live and doing this because I love hearing what people have to say and it's kind of fun. I want to do my next one on probably on Harmony Montgomery. So and I am still working on my songs. I'm going to be posting them. I want to post a couple random songs just to get in the groove and get used to it and get my feel, so I'm not so nervous. And then I'll present Summer's song because I want Summer's song to be perfect. um, I love you guys. I hope you have a great night. I'm going to go because I desperately need a drink and I need to hit my pen. You guys have a good night and thank you so much. Cotton Candy 65, I always see you in chats all the time, and TT and Yanni. You guys are always there for Summer. Do y'all think Summer came home? No. Why would you ask if you think Summer came home? I'm so used to being in chats, I was sitting here about to type my answer back to you and just instead of just saying it. But why would you ask that, Bluish 41? Do y'all think Summer came home? Like, you mean since June 15th? Do you think that she's came back to her house at all? Because I've heard people speculate that before. The day she disappeared? Yeah, okay. That's what I wondered if that's what you meant. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like when she did come home, something was wrong with her by the time she came home. That's what I think. But I don't know. I have a lot of speculations. I also, Yanni, I was just getting ready to say that. I kind of been wondering if she was gone before that day because a lot of people have speculated that, this might sound really out there, but I don't care because this is something that's been in my head since for over a year. What if one of the boys was in the car? What if the youngest boy was in the car and they just thought that was Summer? Like, it wouldn't be that hard to do or think of. But anyways, thanks, TT. I know there's so much. There's just too much, and at the center of it all is Summer. All right, y'all. Thanks for being here. I'm gonna go work on my Harmony Montgomery notes, and I hope you all have sweet dreams tonight. I know I will. Maybe not reading about all this. Yeah, I think they rehearsed too. All right, y'all.